Right then, it's our 9th session on the island at the end of everything. So this is Thursday of week 2. We are giving and explaining the meaning of words in context by thinking about synonyms and antonyms, replacing the word with those, thinking about reading around the word and imagining what's happening in our heads. So all the things we normally do when we do a man of the monitor job. So we've got lots of tasks here. You can see that you've got the bronze task here with a silver challenge included. Silver challenge here with a gold challenge included. So all of this in the middle is for silvers. And then I've got the gold here. Now, gold, you've only got 2 questions. So what I'd like you to do is to do silver as well. So gold is doing silver and gold today. So silver, then gold. Bronzes, and then if you want to move on to do the silver, you can. Silvers, as always, silvers. If you get stuck on silver, track back to bronze. If you do really well on silver, go forward to gold. So silvers, actually, you might end up having to do the most because you've got 3 tasks that you might potentially do. Okay. So we're going to do independent practice as we work through today, because 2A is a skill that we've practiced for a very long time, and actually all of the work that you did yesterday will give you the answers for today. So I don't need to give you any guided practice really, because the answers were there yesterday. So you'll just need to think about how you took that learning yesterday to move you forward today. So this bit of information applies to bronze and silvers. Golds, it's worth listening to as well because you're going to do silver first. For the task, you're going to need to use all of the work we produced yesterday, especially the definitions. The answers you need today come from those definitions. So a question might sound like, what does the word dusk tell you about the time of day? So the definition told me that dusk was that period of time when the day was finishing and the evening was beginning. So that evening time. So because of that, now I know that the time of day is evening. So that's how I get my answer. So I have to pull out the most important bits of the definitions to get the answers today. So if you're bronze, if you're silver, you pause the video now. And then you have a go. Okay, remember silvers, if you get stuck on silver, you go back to bronze and do that first because it's a stepping stone up. Bronzes, if you think bronze is really easy, then have a go at silver afterwards. All of the resources have been sent to you. It's for you to judge where you feel comfortable in this moment. Okay, the answers are on the end of the video and we will go through them. But I do want you to pause and have an independent go first. Golds, stay with me. No, golds. Don't stay with me. Golds, you need to pause now too because it's time for you to do silver. Right, so everybody's pausing now, having a good go, and then we're pressing play when we're ready to move on. Okay then, so you've had a nice go at that. Let's move on. So, guided practice for some gold work. So golds, you have done silver already, and we're going to be able to come to the answers after we've just done this part. If you're bronze or silver, then what you can just do is maybe fast forward this little bit, or if you're really interested in what the golds were doing, then take a look. So the first bit's going to be guided practice. So golds, your questions are much meatier than anything that you've maybe come across before. So I'm giving you a fact. The island is described as containing the living dead. There's the fact. Now what I need you to do is to explain how this description supports the idea that the island has a link to death. So Mrs. T says that the island has a link to death. Prove it. So that's what you need to do. And you need to do it not just with the words living dead, but with other supporting evidence as well from what you've read so far. So firstly, the first thing that I know as evidence is the words living dead. And I know that the words living dead tell me that the people on the island are alive, but somehow have an association to death. So they're waiting for death, or they have a disease that means that they are going to die. Ultimately, these people are on the island to die. So there's how we know that the island has a link to death. Now, there's obviously other things as well that link to death. So let's have a look at what those are in our final answer. So the fact that people are described as the living dead tells me that in some way they are already dead. This could be that they have been completely given up hope because they were forced to come to the island without choice. Now in brackets here, I've got the bit of the text that's told me about them being forced without a choice. My nanny told me this is how they brought her. Or if it could also be described as the living dead because these people wish that they were dead because they're in such constant pain. Then my other supporting evidence, 2 weeks ago your legs started to ache, then to numb. And then finally, the island is also called the island at the end of everything. And this end could signify the end of their life because people will spend this on the island. The island is a place that's full of people waiting to die. So I've got living dead in my brackets. So you can see that. Let's highlight it up. There's my first bit of evidence, and that comes from here. Now I've got other supporting evidence as well, don't I, that adds to it. So my other supporting evidence is my nanny told me this is how they brought her. I've also got 2 weeks ago your legs started to ache then to numb. And I've also got the island at the end of everything as my other supporting evidence. Now what I've done then is I've linked it back to the death. So when it comes to my nanny told me how they brought her, it's they've given up hope because they were forced to come to the island without a choice. So I've given my evidence and my point, and it's all linking back to this main point of the living dead. Then I've said they could wish that they were dead. Oh gosh, I'm wobbling all over the place because they're in such constant pain. That links to 2 weeks ago your legs started to ache then to numb. My final evidence was the island at the end of everything as a title, and that could signify the end of their life. So that links back to this link to death. So can you see how by colour coding it now, I can see that actually when it comes to the words living dead, I've only put one little bit here that in some way they're already dead. But then the rest, my other supporting evidence, I've got 3 bits to support. So normally I'd be thinking point, evidence, explanation, and I'm going to be doing that. I've made my point that they're dead. I've given the evidence, I've given explanations, but my points are the most important bit. I want more points to prove what I'm saying. So more evidence to prove those points. I've got 3 bits of evidence and 3 points. So that's really important. So I'd like you to think of whether or not you can rephrase what I've got, whether you can think of any other evidence for your guided practice for the first question. And then we're going to move on to the second question. So pause now, golds, and edit and improve my answer, or write it in your own words, or if you're completely stuck, copy the bits that you need, magpie it, but you're using that to scaffold your own answer. And then I'd like you to have a go at question 2, and we'll go through the answers of those together. So pause the video now and press play when you're ready to move on. Right then, moving on. So we're now on independent practice. What do the words splash of oars fade suggest about the people on the boat? Give 2 examples and link to other supporting evidence. Okay, so I know for this question I've got the word splash of oars fades, and I need to give 2 things that I learned from those words. So if you haven't done this yet, you need to pause the video now, because what I'm going to do is explain the answer. So please do pause the video now. If you've done it already and you're ready for the answer, keep going with me. So splash of oars fade. The word splash indicates that the oars are hitting the water with some force. Now I've got to use a bit of inference skill here. So what does that tell me if the oars are hitting the water with some force? It obviously might mean that, you know, the water's quite choppy, the boat is very heavy, they've got to use a lot of force, but it might also mean something else. Considering what we know about the men on the boat and how this is all about the people on the boat, I'm not trying to talk about the word splash being that the boat is heavy or that the sea is rough. I think about how the word splash links to those people. So I think that actually those oars are hitting the water very quickly, very forcefully, and that's telling me that the people on the boat are rowing very quickly. Why would they be doing that? They're doing that because they want to move away from the island as quickly as they can. So there's a sense of panic. They're leaving immediately and they're doing it hurriedly. They want to get away. So there's one thing that the word splash tells me. Now moving on to the word fades tells me that they are moving away. So that those people of the boat are moving, it's fading, which means that there's that length of quickness as well, because to hear that fade, it wouldn't last forever. The people on the island wouldn't be stood there for ages, would they, listening? And I want then some other supporting evidence from what we've read so far. So let's have a little look. Oh, sorry, golds. We'll have to wait till after bronze and silver. Suspense. So, right, bronzes, answer time. Bronze answers. Find and copy the word that shows that the narrator was holding something tightly in the sentence, you sit and clutch your bundle of things. The answer is clutch. What does the word marked mean in this text? It doesn't mean covered in pen, like when we mark your work. And it doesn't mean ticked, like when we mark your work. It means scarred, that the people are marked in some way, they're scarred in some way. In the sentence, a green heaven on the horizon, the word heaven is closest in meaning to not a place where God lives, but actually paradise. They're using the word heaven as a term for paradise. It's also not a place where angels live. And in the group of words, what you saved before it was burned, which word is closest in meaning to rescued? The word is saved. Okay, so Silver's answer time. What does the word dusk tell you about the time of day? It's almost evening time. We did do that one kind of guided at the beginning, didn't we? Explain 2 things that the phrase splash of oars fades tells you. And golds, if you did silver first, some of these actually really help you to do your gold answers. So 1 is the oars are hitting the water hard. They're causing water to shoot into the air. 2, the sound of the splashing is getting quieter because the people on the boat are moving further away. So you need to mention, silvers, splash is about the hardness of the oars hitting the water, and fades is about the sound getting quieter. So you can only get the mark if you've said something about hitting the water hard and moving away to create a quieter sound. What do the words the island of the living dead suggest about the island? It suggests that the people on the island are barely alive, or you could have had are waiting to die or are dying. Any one of those is going to give you the right answer. What does the word clutch tell you about how the writer was holding the object? So how they were holding the object. Not just what does the word clutch mean, how they were holding the object. So the writer was holding the object very tightly to ensure that it didn't drop out of their hands because they didn't want it to fall. So you had 4 questions. You could have got like 5 marks because you've got 2 points for question 2. What I want you to do, Silvers, is I want you to pause this now and I want you to purple pen your answers. And then I want to be able to see that when you hand the work in, whichever ones you didn't get right, you've purple penned or purple fonted, okay? So please don't hand it in on Teams without doing this part. It's really vital. Okay, pause the video now once you do that and then press play when you're ready to move on. And Golds, it's your turn to find out what your answers were. Right then, moving on to Gold. Okay, guys, we did the first one together, didn't we? And now this is, you can see they're very big. You've got a lot of, bless you, you've got a lot to do. So splash of oars fades are the words. We want to know about the suggestion about the people on the boat. And we want 2 examples with other supporting evidence. So I've got splash there. Can you see I've taken that from the purple? And I've got the word fades there. So that's really important because now I've managed to talk directly about the quote. And I need to now link that to the people on the boat. So the word splash suggests that the men on the boat, here we go, are hitting the water hard with their oars. Now that's an example, okay? So they give 2 examples, so splash, and it tells me that the men on the boat are hitting the water hard with their oars. Now I've gone even further here to suggest more about the men. So it suggests that they, the men, are trying to move quickly and forcefully through the water because they are trying to get trying to get away from the island as quickly as they can. And now I've gone into fades. So I've started to say they're trying to move away quickly. It's further suggested by the word fades, as the sound of the splashing, which the men are creating, is getting further away. And therefore, it seems quieter to the people who have been left on the island. So that's it. Splash, hitting the water forcefully, moving quickly through the water. Fades, moving quickly through the water because they're getting further and further away from the island. Now I'll go into my previous evidence. From previous evidence, we know that the men are scared because they say stuff. Because they stuff, so many herbs into the cloth that covers their mouths as a form of protection from the breath of the people. And they're also willing to prevent the deaths, of the same people if they're falling from the boat. I could have there and put in brackets, they will not save you if you stumble and start to trip, or whatever the exact wording was. They would rather you fall into the sea and died than help you. I could have put that in brackets as my evidence, but I've paraphrased it. I've put it by your words. All of these facts suggest that the men are scared. So now I've gone back to this suggestion. What does it suggest about these men? So it suggests that the men are scared of the island and the people on it. The men are scared. and they want as little contact with it as possible. They do their job quickly and leave immediately without arrest. So that's a really good example of an answer for that question. So if you're gold, I'd like you to edit and improve your answer if it's maybe not as detailed as mine is. And then I look forward to reading it when they come in. Want to see that purple on it? Thank you guys. Enjoy the rest of your editing and improving. And we'll carry on tomorrow.